All right, everybody, welcome to our first This Week in Crypto here in August, specifically August 2nd, 2024. We've got much to cover today. It'll be somewhat of a shorter session. We're going to be aiming for around 45 minutes, so we recommend you get in any questions and requests as soon as you can, and we can try to look at a few coins and address a few thoughts and metric requests during the last 15 to 20 minutes of the call. Uncertain whether Maxim will be with us, but he will drop in if he drops in, and I will be going over as much as I can today to go over where we expect prices to kind of move throughout August, at least based on what we know now. Obviously, you know that crypto moves rather quickly, and there can be one piece of news that can really shake things up. But all we can do when we, analyze the markets is go with the information that's in front of us. And people who tell you Bitcoin will be at X price on, February 13th, 2025, like there's really no way of knowing that at all. So we try to be realistic with that. And obviously we aren't here to give investment advice anyways. We're here to analyze what the divergences are showing and give the best assessment of the health of the overall markets, specific project breakdowns, things like that. Most of you watching are regulars, so I don't need to explain it to you much more than that. But what I can do for now is kind of recap what we saw in the last week and assess what we're going to be seeing based on kind of the ebbs and flows of a few of the key metrics going on, especially for Bitcoin, which is going to be controlling much of the markets as it always does. So beginning with some of the price changes, you can see Bitcoin did drop. It's down about 3.7% now at 64.7K. It was actually right around 63K a little over a day ago before having a decent rebound. And it seems to be settling into this 64 to 66K range. Maxim just said he joined. Great. Can you hear me, my friend?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Perfecto. You as well. Yeah. How is everything?
Good. Nice weather. If even markets are volatile, weather now stabilized.
I mean, that's the important thing, right? No matter how cloudy the crypto skies get, the real skies are still blue.
Yes, correct.
So how are you seeing the markets right now? I know it's been a bit of a choppy ride over the past week.
Yeah, it's very confusing. Okay, not very, just a bit confusing in terms of also metrics which we will look today. Some of them, and they haven't changed to the worse, pointing out we can go up. Actually, supposed to go up. But some of them not so good, yeah. So it's a split decision. We'll see who will win in split decision.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I saw too in my August or July recap report, where it's a bit of a mixed bag right now. There are some bullish signs, but long term, there's still a bit of an inflated average return on the 365-day MVRV. We'll go over that, of course. The sentiment is still a bit more positive than I would expect as well. But I'm expecting that to change pretty quickly now that prices have dropped a bit. What are some of the special metrics that you're kind of keeping an eye on right now?
I was looking still at if small players accumulating. Some of them started, but not all. I mean, like Bitcoin. And we've been actually taking into account the choppiness of the market quite good in $1 invested age. It's not moving up, so there is no accumulation.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we know there is a distribution from government. So if you're looking for bullish signals, this is one of the best. So from this side, it looks good. And on a recent drop in side, we had some wave of negativity. I don't know, some news about Solana unlocking, dumping market. I don't remember how many millions or billions is about to hit the market. This is typical what you see at the bottom. Yeah. So the question is timing. I would say it's a timing now, very interesting. I was even thinking to probably rebuy a bit of Ethereum, as it was even more severely hit with negative sentiments than Solana. But now Solana is currently also under pressure. Yeah, timing. It's difficult to pull the trigger when I don't know if you noticed or not. I was testing today our AI bot and asked to summarize expectations, price predictions of the Twitter community. And there it's bearish. They say, oh, still I add. The bot says the majority expect Bitcoin 100, some 260,000, up to I don't know how many millions. Ethereum 3,000 to 6,000. Yeah. So from AI point of view, from our bot categorizing, it seems like the majority is still bullish. So I'm a little bit scared of pulling the trigger and go into Ethereum Solana. Yeah.
One of the
This
advantages.
is a mix. This is a kind of mix I'm saying. Yeah. So some metrics say that's fine. Stable mean dollars and wage and actually very low borrowing rates you can share, or I can send you a link. It's from that point looks very healthy. Money are cheap. It means not many people taking them. Our compound, Frax, everywhere. Stablecoins are cheap. You can take them for 4% now. Okay, you get for them 4%. If you take it, will be 6 or 7. Still, compared to the topish formation, it's quite cheap. So there are these bullish signs, but then still not scared, or like not sustainably scared crypto community. Yeah, makes not easy timing. Is it now? Should I wait?
Well, what we can say is that the social volume is way up. I mean, this isn't a fluke. Bitcoin's discussion rate is up nearly a third compared to a week ago. And to me, this is a sign that we're getting close to that polarization point where you've got the bulls getting very opinionated and vocal, and the bears getting much more loud as well. And it's not just Bitcoin. Even though Ethereum looks like it's lower, it's only because Ethereum the week before had all the talk about the ETFs. An 18% drop still means it's getting talked about plenty compared to perhaps a month ago, for example. And to me, just universally, the opinions are really starting to pick up with prices kind of ranging the way they have for so long, being stuck in the 60Ks, frustrating some people. Other people are actually happy about it because they're expecting prices to go just a bit lower so they can buy, right? We're continuing to have that narrative like most people are very long-term bullish on crypto, as they should be, but many people don't want to buy in now because they think it's going to drop to X price, right? And I've always found that a little funny because if you believe in an investment long term and you simply think that prices happen to be too high and you can buy back later, I see so many people who miss the boat on that and wait too long, and it never reaches that price target, and they find themselves kicking themselves. So we'll see if people's moods start to turn. But you mentioned the sentiment end. I wanted to point this out. On the weekly scale, the weighted sentiment is still quite bullish for most assets. So if we just look at Bitcoin by itself, this was the end of July right here.
Your sound again?
My sound is off? Test. Anyone can hear me? One sec. How about now?
Better or worse now? All right. One day we'll just have no audio complications and it'll be a glorious day. But yeah, I was just saying, we saw this huge euphoric spike all of a sudden, which obviously showed that we were nearing a top. But even after this drop, we're still seeing a little bit of a bullish bias right now. It's kind of reset close to neutral again. If we just take it by the daily, whatever happened here on July 26th to 27th, it for whatever reason was the largest amount of euphoria that we saw all year long. This was it. So it could have just been this minor uptick. Sometimes politics have something to do with it. I know right around here was when Kamala Harris kind of entered the race. So perhaps there was some bullishness and some extra discussion of Bitcoin around then to speculate what her take would be. But whatever the case is, this really kind of signaled that we were getting close to a top, just like we saw back here at the all-time high. The same thing, 2 days before the all-time high, we see this euphoric spike and then a correction. I don't expect that we'd see quite that level of a correction this time around, but it's been positive for most of the past week after this long stretch between late May to late July, really, of negativity. So there is a bit of a turnaround going on with sentiment right now. And I even put out this post yesterday, which are just kind of a synopsis of the weekly sentiment. And yes, this is the highest week we just had in 17 months in terms of bullish sentiment. That's a big deal. And then XRP's up there, understandably, because it went on a huge run from late June to late July. Solana had a pretty good run itself, so it's up there. And then Ethereum is still coming off of its ETF excitement, but I think people have toned down their expectations a bit after the disappointing price returns over the first couple weeks of their existence. And then BNB is one of the only top caps we see, which is actually seeing a more negative bias than usual compared to its own resting average. So sentiment's kind of all over the place, but at least
that's Brian. That's exactly what I mean. And correct, you brought up. If we see mid to long term, it's still positive. We see from time to time, and our guys in our internal research team, they pointed out there are waves of negative or some negative stories, but they're kind of overshadowed by long-term positive.
Right.
It's right. Like everyone say, oh, majority says, okay, yeah. If even they're coming out with a negative sentiment, we recover and then we go up. I mean, we dump and then we go up, and that's not usually how it works. Yeah. And it should disappear. Exactly. Yeah. Even though I do believe, or let's say I want to believe that the governments and Matt Cox and quite wide discussion of it in the public, it's more like bullish. But either we need to get rid of this narrative in our social radars for 1 week, so no one talking about it. Okay. But the way people talk about, they're kind of smart. Right. Say, okay, I can't believe that the government is on the top. I will never believe into it, which is generally correct, but we shouldn't be talking about. We should be talking about some negative news, whatever they are. And maybe this is the last piece of the puzzle we're missing. The setup is generally, good, bullish, but we need to switch crowd sentiment to the direction when topics being discussed are negative, when actions on chain being made kind of considered like negative, taking profits, spikes in H consumed. I don't know, increase of stablecoins supply on exchanges, this. We have a set of things which you say, okay, now it looks like they're talking about negative topics and they're doing things, expecting more negativity to come. This part is missing.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that there isn't really, there's been enough volatility to keep people interested. To me, the markets have not been boring enough for traders to start getting negative. So whether people are bullish or bearish, there have been segments of the market over the past month and even over the past week where we've seen both sides of traders have their fun and have those opportunities to make some money. I still think that the bullish bias needs to come down a bit before we crack 70K again. But of course, that's just the sentiment end. You mentioned the supply and exchanges. I did want to pull up this chart, which, by the way, I want to remind everyone who hasn't seen any announcements yet. We are adding a ton of new Bitcoin wallets that should really bolster the accuracy of our supply and exchanges. This is accurate, but it has a limitation to the amount of wallets that we are actually following. So stay tuned for a lot more, and this number will likely jump. Just understand the direction of what we have now is still accurate. It's just we're going to get a much larger sample size soon. But take a look overall, based on what we do have for Bitcoin, staying very low, which is a strong sign that people are at least not losing their patience and moving a bunch of supply to exchanges to try to sell it off. Meanwhile, Ethereum is continuing to grow. And Maxim mentioned the amount of stable coins on exchanges, and that's actually been coming down a bit. Unlike Bitcoin and Ethereum, we want to be seeing stable coins coming to exchanges because that would lead to more buying power and dry powder that's ready to be used to convert to Bitcoin or Ethereum or any other asset out there. So kind of mixed news here. I do like that Bitcoin's staying down, but it would be great to see Tether continue to move up the way it did in the earlier part of the year. Also wanted to mention this, Maxim, the correlation with the S&P. So the S&P is actually experiencing one of its biggest drops we've seen.
Yeah, catch it up. I think my thesis was that crypto now is leading indicator. Whenever it moves down, the rest of the classic market will follow, but a bit later. So you see, we've been declining, then increasing, again declining. But yeah, it's catching up. I mean, today and yesterday, quite big drop. The gold is the last one. Yeah,
stocks especially are just getting crushed, and those are the ones that are generally accepted to be the most correlated with crypto. So I think there's absolutely truth to your thesis. Sorry to interrupt. Did you want to say something else?
No, I just checked the price of the gold. Looks like today news finally catch it up with gold as well. Today everything moves together. Okay, you see the dollar gets kind of classic setup. So market pricing, I cannot tell the whole narrative, but dollar getting stronger, Swiss franc getting stronger, and everything was dumped. So this is the definition of they expecting the crisis to come. The market price is in. There is a possibility for quite a severe crisis.
Yeah, this was the familiar story we saw throughout 2022, where fiat just gained so much value that just from a pure math perspective, everything from a conversion rate that uses fiat as a denominator began to lose its value. So it's interesting how that works. But you're right. I think there are expectations of a crash, and people are selling off probably a bit out of emotion. And if you are a big equities trader and in the stock market, whether it's the S&P 500 or another, Maxim, I'm getting some feedback from your end.
Okay.
Not sure what it was, but yeah, it's better now. So yeah, whether you're in the stock market or not, you definitely have had some leading indication from the crypto markets throughout the year, I think, in terms of where stocks are going to go next. And I think that may only increase over time because obviously the nature of crypto being 24/7, whereas the stock markets are only open 6.5 hours a day, at least in the US, you can very well see the groundwork as to what the next day is going to look like in stocks, just by seeing how crypto is doing overnight wherever you are. And there's a lot of interesting advantages you can get from following crypto these days, especially with so many institutions in it now, and the way they make similar decisions between crypto and equities, as we saw, with the interest rates, especially throughout 2022, when they were raising them month over month over month. Which, by the way, another thing that happened in the past week was the FOMC and their decision to leave rates the same. So that's a story within itself. I'll open up the chart on the mentions of the Fed. So check this out: Fed or FOMC or Powell. And then we'll also do rate and cut. So we'll just go to the last week, make it nice and simple. Right here was obviously when the decision was made. This was an immediate letdown for people, as everyone was speculating. Not everyone, but there was a certain contingency of people expecting a bit of a cut. It did not happen, and prices immediately fell.
What is the search? What is the search? I didn't notice what you typed in.
Oh, this is Fed or FOMC or Powell. And I accidentally had it on Trump.
You can also, maybe you can also CPI enter, or CPI.
Got it.
I think there was a button at or CPI, yeah. It will have a bit more. Yeah, you can select also dominance, or click on the dominance here. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, so clearly all of the
quite dominant
was as the announcement was made, and right after that, markets dipped pretty substantially and has not recovered since. You can see rate cuts. A lot of people kind of disappointed by the lack of rate cuts, and that kind of continued over the next day or so. And now we're just going to have to wait. The next one is in late August, early September, and we should see that same speculation as to whether there will be rate cuts. But you can see what an impact this subject has. You see the spike and then an immediate drop in price. So traders are very sensitive to this right now, just like we saw in 2022. At least we're not seeing interest rate rises anymore. That would be a very bad sign. But right now, the two decisions are either stay the same or cut the rates. And anytime they stay the same, there seems to be a bit of a letdown from the crypto community as of late. On the politics side, I also wanted to mention, obviously, this past week was the first week we really started to see a lot of Kamala Harris discussion take off. Obviously, we have talked and documented the bullish bias that the crypto community seems to have with Trump. Whether you call it strategic from Trump or not our place to have that opinion, but clearly he has been vocal about his pro-crypto stance, wanting to make sure it's as legalized as possible in the US. And that has caused crypto traders to react positively when there's something pro-Trump out there. Obviously, the biggest example was his survived assassination attempt happening about 3 weeks ago. And I think Kamala Harris, as interesting as it is, it's at least the narrative is that she has a better chance of defeating Trump than Biden did, according to many people on both sides, really. And that means that when there is something pro-Harris coming out, it can have a negative effect on crypto. I wouldn't say that, that's going to be the case throughout the rest of this election process, but at least from the early biases that people are showing, it seems to be the case that Pro-Harris news is bad. Pro-Trump news is good. If Harris comes out and says something about her pro-crypto stance, that could change a lot. But right now, people know very little about her stance in crypto. Therefore, the Trump news, good Trump news is kind of what people are hoping for when it comes to positive price movement. Obviously, this is only one factor in terms of where crypto goes, but we've seen how impactful certain pieces of news can be and how sensitive the entire world is to how the political landscape ends up here in the US. Maybe we move on to some on-chain stuff now. I wanted to take a look at...
Yeah, let's do it, because today I'm a bit limited in time. I think I will need to leave in 10 minutes maybe.
Yeah, perfect. We're planning on having a bit of a shorter call today anyways. We announced that at the beginning. But let's zoom through this. I want to look at the sharks and whales here. The 10 plus wallets are holding about 16.17 million BTC, but notice how they've kind of declined in the past 10 days. They've dropped a total of about 5,374 BTC, not a major amount, but you can see the ascension that they've been on over the past 3 months and how that kind of started to turn just about 10 days ago. So we're hoping to see, the accumulation resume going into the weekend. And we'll, of course, keep you guys updated on all of our socials as to how this line is playing out. But right now, that kind of explains this drop. I mean, they turned right when crypto was topping. We might have had one extra run right here, but it couldn't last too long if the sharks and whales were moving down. That's typically how it goes. We already talked about supply on exchanges. We talked about sentiment. Discussion rates toward Bitcoin are kind of coming back down to normal now. As far as funding rates go, pretty neutral at the moment. There were a few signs that people might actually short, but anytime it seemed like they were teasing that, prices bounced back up, and that went away pretty quickly. In terms of total holders, I find this interesting too. Long decline here from mid-June all the way until mid-July, about a 5-week stretch. And then traders seem to start getting some confidence here, and the amount of non-empty wallets began to grow. But because of this dip, it might be starting to come back down again. Going down is generally good because most of these wallets are made up of tiny wallets. Obviously makes sense. It's much easier to have a wallet that has 3 cents worth of Bitcoin than $3 million. So when this goes down, it's mostly those small wallets that are dropping off and liquidating themselves. That is kind of an informal sign of capitulation among the novice community. And the novice community is generally a counter indicator to where prices go next. So we want to see them continue to drop. And this past week has been pretty good in that sense. It started up, but it flattened out here at the end of July and it's starting to move down again. Maybe we do a quick check on the actual amount held by these small wallets here. So if we go just these 3 tiers, and we'll hide everything else. So the 0.001 to 0.01 BTC wallets, they've been dropping pretty aggressively since early June now. They've dropped a total of about 3.5% of their entire collective BTC that they were holding. The orange line representing 0.01 to 0.1, they started dropping in mid-June, started to go back up a little bit about 10 days ago. Yeah, it's not much. And then 0.1 to 1, if you want to call them small wallets, I'd actually call them pretty decently sized wallets at this point, holding between $6,300 to $63,000. They've actually been going up quite a bit. But I think the yellow and orange lines are more important, and they're still kind of in a long-term downtrend to me, which is a good sign. I'd like to see the orange line start to go down again. They've sort of increased their confidence a little bit as of late.
Yeah. Would be better.
Yeah. And then let's look at some of just the utility metrics as well as MVRV here. So on the volume side, really not too much special, arguably just a little bit of an uptick over the past week. On-chain transaction volume, we did have a few decent spikes. So utilities picking up slightly, just not quite at the level we saw during that first couple weeks of March when we saw that all-time high. Now on the circulation side, we actually had a huge milestone. This was the largest day of unique tokens being moved since the second week of March when that all-time high happened. Daily active addresses, not really as exciting. You can see on the trend line for daily active addresses, it's starting to move back down again. Circulation is still moving up, powered by that big day that we mentioned. MVRV, 30-day is pretty much right at even, about 0.4% in profit. 365 days, about plus 12.5% in profit. Neither one are particularly notable. I will say that getting both of these down below 0% would be a very bullish sign. We haven't seen that happen very often, but when it did last time was right around July 4th, July 5th, and that was right when we hit that bottom, and you would have made a quick 15% profit if you use this signal as a buy signal for yourself. Funding rates, we already mentioned that. Nothing too special going on. Whale transactions, pretty neutral.
You can check min dollar invested ratio. That's you will see long term and take it maybe 1 year, so it's more visible. Actually, the last two things before I go, it's min dollar invested age, and you touched already sentiment. Yeah. So min dollar invested age is a yellow line, and yeah, it's for this price action actually it's quite good. If you come back to 21, time between first stop in May till November, you will see what I mean.
You're talking about July 21 or the year 2021?
Year 21.
Okay, so that's way back here.
Exactly. So the moment we start building Ultima Top, you see how accumulation was very active. Yeah, so redistribution was over, and we start accumulating. We don't see this yet, at least. There is a flat line, which in this context is not bad. It means there is still redistribution going on. So there are enough players in the market on a quite big scale who think, okay, this is the top, or I should sell. So we should give some thoughts of possibly we can go up, yeah. But it's a big scale, meet like 2 to 3 months. Yes, timing precisely when it will go up, it's very difficult based on this metric alone. But just to point out to those who are watching the stream and then looking by themselves, the reasoning behind min dollar invested age, and now it's very long term. The moment there is redistribution, it's good, it's healthy. There is enough people who think, okay, or force to sell for whatever reason. And it's a kind of serve the purpose of the growing market. But if there are no people who believe it will go down, well, from point of sentiment analysis, this is a very bad. And this is you see when the line just keeps going up. So no one believe in the market going down. Yep.
Yeah. As a devil's advocate question, is this min dollar invested age line potentially being kind of unintentionally manipulated by the Mt. Gox situation going on? How much do you think that might be?
It doesn't matter. I mean, you need to see the reality through many different events, and then you take them. Madgox is here too, yeah, but it's just one event. There are others like government and some big wallets who were selling. I remember there were some big old coins moved, and it is important when analyzing the tops, as I want to say, because for spotting the bottom, this let's say specific metric is not suitable. Yeah, that's why when you are trying to time, which is by itself already risky, but when you're trying to time, you don't use directly this metric. You just use it to say, okay, there is chance market going up. There is enough supply, and means some market participants who believe, okay, it's now good time to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then we need to go dive into a specific set of metrics to really, if you want to time it out.
Makes sense, yeah. If nothing else, I mean, the fact that it isn't moving up right now is a good sign. The network is not stagnant the way we saw during the bear market in 2022. So root for things to kind of stay flat or potentially even move down. That would be a very good sign that a bull cycle is either
flat. I don't expect it to go down. You know, when the price goes down, typically you don't see it going down. What I would expect now, or would like to see, is this flip on the sentiment side. This positivity we saw. Yeah, possibly if someone wants to have a simple view, if even it's not a perfect, as I don't like oversimplification, but the underlying crowd sentiment, or how I call it, weighted sentiment, because we combine it together with social volume, should flip to negative and stay there. Yeah. I wouldn't pay too much attention to founding rates at the moment, unless you took some secondary coins. For Bitcoin, Ethereum, probably unlikely we'll see something. But crowd sentiment, yeah, should flip and stay there. And for both Bitcoin and Ethereum, maybe that will happen with timing. As of now, as I say, it's, the data tells, and when you observe with your own eye, sentiment is still a bit too positive. It's not how typically you start growing up.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think your theory has a lot of merit to it, and really we are kind of just some negative sentiment away from breaking that 70K threshold and seeing the entire crypto sector recover back to the March levels that so many people are waiting for. And Maxim, feel free to drop off if you need to. I wanted to wrap up with obviously some questions in a moment, but also to take a look at the narratives.
Okay, good. Then maybe I will say goodbye till the next week. Yeah.
Absolutely, Maxim. Thank you
for
joining.
We'll see if the conditions. Yeah, we'll see if the conditions for bullish resolution of expectations, which many of us has, if they formed. Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, Maxim. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. So a few more things, folks. The narratives is showing that there's still quite a bit of discussion about Bitcoin's price. You can see what a large segment it's making up of this overall piece of the pie. AI has kind of dried up quite a bit in terms of discussion. Bitcoin without the price kind of doing its thing, nothing special there. CPI, obviously it was getting the most hype going into it back here on the 28th, the 29th, and then the 30th, 31st is when it happened. And you can see how little it's being talked about now that it's over with and the decision's been made. Meme coins really not getting a lot of hype right now. ETFs, nothing too special at the moment. We saw a lot more here. If we went back just before where this cuts off, that was where there was a lot of ETF talk. Kamala Harris is an important one. You did see that there was some increased discussion here yesterday. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few more jumps here very soon with the debates and the election here in the US getting closer and closer, just over 3 months out now. Solana, it's had its moments over the past week, but it's not really being discussed much at all right now. Many altcoins have been fairly hammered, and Solana is one of them over the last few days. Doge too, just not really getting much excitement at all anymore. Most of it was happening back on the early part of the week around the 27th. GameFi, not much there. U.S. government $2 billion BTC movement. Yeah, that was a hot topic in the beginning of this past week. Art, Ethereum's 9th birthday. I actually didn't even know they had their 9th birthday. So happy B-Day to Ethereum. Makes sense. I remember when it was first launched, right when I was learning about crypto in the summer of 2015. Nero is up there, getting a little talk. Senator Loomis and Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. Russia's crypto regulation. Bitcoin Nashville, the event that was going on. RFK Jr., Bitcoin Pledge, and XRP, which has had a bit of hype over the past week due to some price decouplings going on. So those are kind of the narratives going on. If you want to learn about the details of any particular topic, our AI-generated explanations about the narratives are always here on the left column. And whether you're a Sandbase Pro member or not, checking these out are all free. So just go over to the URL that you see on my website right here, app.sentiment.net/social trends/crypto-narratives. All right, that being said, why don't we take one quick question before wrapping up? Hopefully one that would be an ERC20, Max. Sounds good to me. Maple, definitely an obscure altcoin that is not typically talked about a lot. Currently the 446th ranked market cap asset. It had its huge run back in April of 2022 when it got roughly all the way above $68. And since that time, its price is down about 68% or so. It had a mini run back in March, like a lot of altcoins did. And since that time, it's down 41%. Volume-wise, let's zoom in just to the past. Go 6 months here and see what we can find. So volume-wise, yeah, it looks like Maple, especially with a lot of altcoins outside the top 100 or so, when you see big volume spikes or transaction volume spikes, you can really use them as an indicator for a probable reversal. And that was very evident here on July 19th when it had its largest amount of volume since March. As far as active addresses go, let's make that a little smaller too. So yeah, there's been a bit of a pickup actually in the amount of unique addresses interacting on the network. That's a good sign. Circulation not really doing anything special, however. We'd want to see this be a little more sustained. If we can really see a lot of unique addresses starting to pop up and move and cycle Maple around a little bit more, that would be a very promising sign that we're going to start picking up steam in its overall market cap value. Let's check out MVRV if we've got to look at full day rather than intraday like it was set as. All right, so 30-day, it's sitting at about negative 15%. That's certainly a buy zone historically. And then 365-day, it's pretty much right at break even. Ideally, we'd like to see something more like this that we saw around July, just the first week of July when we got as low as negative 14% for 30-day and negative 25-ish% for the 365-day. But as you can see, with such a small market cap, average trading returns just went through the roof as soon as we saw that mild bounce. And then this was kind of a sell signal here. So look for both of these to be low at the same time as a really great, historically solid signal to buy in based on the math. Whale transactions, really nothing special going on at all. Very few large addresses moving massive amounts of Maple at any given time. But let's take a look at how much they are actually holding. Maple is currently priced at $15-ish right now, give or take. So we can estimate that sharks are going to start right about there. If we just go, let's go 10K and above from a percentage standpoint. Yeah, they've actually been moving down quite a bit. That's not the most promising sign. Let's look at its price versus Bitcoin specifically. It's fine. Yeah, so I mean, other than this dip buy that they had back in March, which was a good sign we'd see a bounce, there haven't been many times where this coins, sharks and whales have actually moved up to from a sustained standpoint. We saw a little bit of that actually recently. So this is a decent sign that they're actually starting to scoop up some loose coins that the small traders are likely dropping right now. If we go to the total amount of holders here at the bottom, that's mostly just rising over time, which is interesting. So there are quite a few small wallets, even though they've probably dropped a little bit in terms of their percentage of supply. I'd like to see this actually start to go back down. So the sharks and whales are clearly accumulating all of those capitulated coins that the small traders are getting impatient about and don't want to hang on to anymore. RSI is a little below 50. That's a decent sign. Very little development activity. That's disappointing when it comes to these obscure altcoins that aren't really commonly talked about. You'd at least want to see that their coders are consistently putting out some new attempts at improvement and innovation. And there's not nothing, that's good, but we're talking about less than one notable development activity submission per day right now. And then sentiment is on the negative end, actually very negative at the moment, which is actually a good sign. It means a lot of this is due to it just not being talked about, period. But when it is being talked about, there's more negative discussion likely as a result of this big drop that we're seeing right now. And this kind of confirms that the social volume and dominance are pretty low at the moment. So that's just a little recap on Maple. Thank you for the one who suggested it. This is my first time diving into the asset, and let's see how its journey ends up going the rest of the year. In the meantime, I want to, of course, thank Maxim, who already took off, for joining today. Thank you all for continuing to watch our live streams and look with us in terms of where markets are likely to head next. I think we have a decent outlook. The most likely path, I think, would be a continued range, maybe in the 62 to 68K range for the next week. But politics can very much shake that up in a snap of a finger. Whale accumulation this weekend would be really nice to see, so that we can report, when we come back on Monday, that there have been some positive movements on that end. The 10 plus wallets continue to be one of the best correlations to price in crypto. So pay attention to that chart. Ethereum wise, it's not showing real big signs of decoupling from Bitcoin right now. Maybe there's some new developments with the ETFs that come out, but I think they are what they are at this point. And it's going to rely on Bitcoin having a bit of positive momentum for a few days before Ethereum can pick back up. And then XRP and XRP and Solana, be mindful of the fact that they've been decoupling quite a bit. So if there is some positive momentum in crypto, those are two top caps to watch that might have another run or two in them before the summer ends. So we'll keep you posted on all the latest developments, guys. Thank you for joining, and have a wonderful weekend. If we don't talk to you before then, hit us up on Discord in the meantime. All right, guys, talk soon.